Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Welcome everyone. Abhidhamma is about the Dhamma or the essence of the Buddha's, Gautam Buddha's teaching. We did the introduction, then we did unwholesome thoughts, types of consciousness. We did the wholesome types of consciousness. Then we did the rootless types of consciousness. And today we are moving upward towards the consciousness that arises when you are meditative, when you are finding calmness and serenity, then when you are finding wisdom within. We are moving upward from the general level to upward. So today we begin our lesson on the mundane levels of meditation, what do we call the fine material levels of meditation, the jhanas. What type of consciousness exists when you attain to that meditative absorptions, jhanas, is what our focus today. So let's move on with our lesson. As I said, we know our schedule, we know our method of learning. Now we are still here. Sense sphere consciousness. This is where we are now. We did the 12 types of unwholesome, 8 rooted in greed, 2 rooted in hatred, and 2 rooted in delusion. And then we did 8 types of wholesome consciousness, multiplied by 3 times as wholesome, resultant, and functional. Then we did 18 types of rootless consciousness. Rootless in the sense that they are not rooted in greed, hatred, delusion, the unwholesome roots, or non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, the wholesome roots. Neither roots are there in those types of consciousness we learned in our last lesson. And we learned that everything is being carried together with a certain feeling. Feeling is universally there in every types of consciousness. When we are going to learn the mental factors, you will see that there are universal mental factors in the sense that in every consciousness, whether that consciousness arises in a Buddha or a general human being just like you and me, these mental factors are there. Feeling is one of them. And today we shift into this level called fine material sphere consciousness. the jhanas. In fact, the beginning of the jhanas or beginning of the meditative journey is what we are focusing on today. Fine material sphere consciousness. How many types of cittas are discussed? 15 types of cittas. Now, the fine material sphere cittas. In Pali, we call them Rupavachara Chittas. Rupavachara Chittas. Fine material sphere. Now, these Rupavachara Chittas can arise in the realm of sensual pleasures. We are in the realm of sensual pleasures, but if we become meditative, if we become focused on a particular object of meditation, as our focus, as our awareness become deeper and deeper, as our mind becoming fully absorbed in the object, we are to experience these fine material sphere chittas, rupavachara chittas. And if we are to die, with the capability of attaining into jhanas, attaining into which jhana? According to that jhanic level, we will be taken birth in particular realms of Brahma realms. Now, did this type of meditation is only Buddhistic, just for the Buddhist, or simply a teaching of the Buddha? No. This type of meditation were already in existence by the time Lord Buddha Gautama was walking on this earth. That by the time Siddhartha Gautama began his journey, when he took birth here, this meditation was already prevalent in India at that time among the spiritual seekers. So this is not a pure Buddhistic practice. This is basically in the Hinduism, practiced by those contemporaries of the Buddha or those who were previous to Buddha. They had developed their concentration, the jhana, to such a higher level. Buddha did not have to develop any further, or there is no possibility of developing any further, because they had already developed to the highest level of concentration. But what the Buddha found was, no matter how much you developed in jhanas, you are still stuck in the cycle of birth and death. You are not out of the samsara. You are to return. Jhana is, even after the Buddha's passing, jhana is kind of most attractive subject area. Now, when Buddhism went to China through Bodhidharma and other masters, Buddhism was introduced as jhana, or in China it became Chan. When Buddhism went to Japan, it became Zen. So Buddhism basically introduced as jhana to other countries. So you can see the significance in the jhanas. Yeah. So the other question is, there are people who are questioning this, who are talking about this, and there are some people say, to be enlightened, you no need jhanas. There are discussions on this. But when you are going on in these lessons, now remember, today we are just touching on the types of consciousness that you will bear, you will contain within you when you attained to that jhana. But there are many more areas to learn about them, to discuss about them. We are not going to touch them. Yeah, there is a separate lesson on the meditation as our last lesson in this series. Yeah, but for now, we are just focusing on the types of consciousness. That's all. There are many other areas to discuss. In these lessons, you will understand whether you intentionally practice or not. When you are attaining to a certain stage of enlightenment, when you are being liberated, there must be a particular level of jhana. There must be a particular level of jhana you have unintentionally developed for your attainment of liberation. So, Nibbana, according to the Abhidhammic way of explanation, Nibbana is to contain the jhana intentionally or unintentionally. That's what happened. So, if somebody says, you can be enlightened without jhana, I say, you don't know Dhamma. That's what I would say. Now, this consciousness, fine matter sphere cittas, as you can see the slide, called sublime, though it still belongs to the mundane or worldly level of cittas. Remember, Rupavacara Chittas, fine matter sphere cittas are still belong to mundane, loka. It is not lokuttara or supramundane yet. Why? Because no matter how much you develop this mind in the sense of jhanas, you are still to return to this world if you haven't got out of the cycle. So you are still stuck in the mundane. Yet you have developed from the gross level of sense pleasures to the subtle level of sense pleasures. So they are called sublime. Sublime. You are not stuck in the sense pleasures, at least while you are engrossed, while you are submerged in the jhanas. You are not there. Yeah, because sense pleasures, desire for sense pleasures, kama chanda, and jhanas are not coexisting. They are two different areas. So they are called sublime. Yeah. And because it is extremely blissful in nature, they are also called expanded or extremely great. Mahagata. Mahagata, extremely great. Why they are called expanded? Because usually the object you pay attention, object you concentrate, can be handled by your mind as you wish. You can expand it further and further as you wish. A small object you take into your system as your concentrated object, and that object is handled by you as you wish. So you can expand it as it is possible. When we are discussing the kasinas, we can clearly see that. So this fine material, or what do you call the rupavachara chittas, can only be attained, developed, and experienced by the types of meditation called one-pointedness, or popularly known as samadhi or samatha bhavana. Samadhi or samatha bhavana, where you achieve concentration. In that development of the concentration, you are to experience the types of chittas called rupavachara chittas, or fine material sphere chittas. Now see the samadhi or the concentration characteristic. What is the characteristic? Not being distracted. That's the characteristic. Yeah. Get this idea. Now, if you are not distracted, that could be anything, right? That could be anything. Anything in the sense, let's say you are watching a very interesting film, a movie, a drama. Yeah. You are so attracted to that drama, the movie. You don't feel anything, you don't hear anything else. You are totally in that drama. Yeah. I have heard in my country there were some thieves. They used to go to into the houses and steal things. During those times, they, those TVs broadcast soap operas, dramas, because the people in the house so engrossed, so concentrated in those dramas, they forget everything else. Indian dramas, yeah. Isn't it concentration? Yes, it is concentration. Is it wholesome or unwholesome? That's the question. It is not always wholesome. You can be concentrated on unwholesome things. That's the difference between the vipassana or insight meditation and samadhi. You can be concentrated. What is the characteristic? You are not distracted. That means you are not aware of anything else that is happening. In that level of mind, we call concentrated. But whether it is wholesome or unwholesome is another question. The only thing is you are not distracted. What happened once you are distracted? Your jhana is gone. Once you are distracted, once your mind attracts something else, jhana is gone. That can happen. And that jhana can be lost at any level of development. You can develop your jhana, your concentration to such a great level with the supernormal powers, like walking on the sky, yeah, reading others' minds, all sorts of psychological abilities, those, abhinya, supernormal abilities, you can develop. But in a moment, you can lost, you can lose everything. And you can fall down from your jhana to the lowest level. Because you haven't got rid of your defilements. That is not the way of jhana. Jhana is to forget things. Jhana is not about understanding things. Jhana is not about, getting rid of your defilements. Jhana is about suppressing them, controlling them. Like a snake, you put in a box, close the lid, and force it down. As long as you are forcing it down, the snake is there. You are not harmed by that snake. What would happen if you happen to forget about forcing it down, suppressing it? The snake comes out. A slight moment of mishappening is enough. A slight mistake is enough. The snake will come out and bite you. So once you forgot about, or once you make a mistake in this concentration, that means you become distracted. Once distracted, those suppressed defilements comes up. That's why many people, many even religious leaders, Buddhist religious leaders, they say what? Jhana is not something important. They say that because of the fragile nature. True. In that sense, they are right. They are so fragile. But Buddha says, you need jhana. It's like the other side of the coin. of vipassana. You need jhana to enter into vipassana. That's the specialty in Buddhism. Buddha used jhana not to be stuck in that level of suppression, yeah, suppressing the defilements, but to have some clarity on the surface level of the mind so that you can enter into vipassana and get rid of the defilements underneath. Yeah. Function to eliminate whatever distractions occurs. Yeah. So this elimination, getting rid of the distractions, that's the function of jhana. Manifest, being unwavering or settled. When you are settled, when you are focused, that means you are not distracted, you have eliminated all the distractions, you are totally in that subject, in that concentration. So these are the characteristic, function, and manifestation of the jhana or rupavachara cittas. Jhana. Root of the jhana is the, to think. Also, another meaning is there, to burn up. Yeah. So jhana has the meaning of contemplation, being aware, being mindful, being concentrated. Also to burn up. And what do they burn up? What do they just burn? They burn the opposites or the distractions or the enemies of your concentration. Remember, in this sense, in this particular sense, this is about the wholesome side. I told you about you can be concentrated on unwholesome things, easily concentrated. But here, for something wholesome to be your object of concentration, you got to be, you have to be equipped with the ability to suppress these obstacles of your concentration. You have got to have that skill to suppress these obstacles. What are they? First one, and the most strong one, kama chanda, sensual desire. Yeah. Vyapada, ill will. If you are not familiar with these words, yeah, just repeat after me to get familiar with the Pali words a bit. Hina middha, slut and torpor, uddhacha, pupucha, restlessness and worry, vichikicha, doubt. Yeah. Now, first of all, what does the nivarana does? Or these hindrances? What is their, what's their action? What's their manifestation? They defile the purity and serenity of the mind. Now look at these: ill will, sensual desire. Yeah, just these two enough. Huh? They just defile our purity or the serenity of the mind. Mind is disturbed once you are desiring or once you are in anger. Yeah, and also weaken the intellectual faculty. Panyaya dubbali karana. That's how it is explained. They weaken the intellectual faculty. So not only they impurify your mind, but also they weaken your intellectual faculty. That means these five hindrances, nivaranas, are not just the hindrances for samatha or concentration or jhana. They are also a hindrance for your vipassana, for your wisdom meditation, yeah, insight meditation. Now, There is an example for us to have a clear understanding. It is based on water, right? Sensual desire is like water mixed with manifold colors. Understand? If the water is full of colors, many colors, can you see what is going on underneath? Oh, that water is not clear. It is like sensual desire, desire for vision, desire for sounds, desire for taste, desire for feelings, manifold colors. Vyapada, ill will, like boiling water. Hinamidda, sloth and torpor, water covered by moss. Yeah, all sorts of roots, I mean, all sorts of plants are covering the water. We have seen the lakes being covered by moss. You cannot see what is going on. Then, uddacha kukkucha, restlessness and worry, like agitated water whipped by the wind. And vichikicha, doubt, turbid and muddy water. So sensual desire is like colored water, ill will, boiling water, sloth and torpor, covered by musk, restlessness and worry, agitated water, whipped up by the wind. Yeah, doubt is like the turbid and muddy water. Now, all these examples based on water is making us understand that when we are disturbed by these hindrances, that means our mind is not suitable for meditation. Mind has no serenity, calmness, purity, or any sort of intelligence is there. That mind is unsuitable for anything. That's the function, manifestation, and the way of the nivarana, the five hindrances. So, first of all, before the meditation, you got to minimize the opportunities for these five hindrances to be active. You must find a place, find a location where these five hindrances are less inactive. Yeah, you must find a suitable location, environment, or also the people where they do not generate the chances for these five hindrances to manifest. That's the first step. Yeah, it matters what you dress, what you are wearing, what you eat. It matters where you are, with whom you are with. All these are matters because that background must be generated before you enters into that meditation. So, five nivaranas, pancha nivarana, kama chanda, vyapada, thina midda, uddacha kukkucha, vichikicha. Now, the five jhanas. Of course, I think you might have heard about four jhanas. We are going to talk about that. Now, in Abhidhamma, the four jhanas described in the suttas are explained as five jhanas with extra detail. Yeah. Now, the chitta together with the first jhana, initial application, vitakka, sustained application, vichara, zest, piti, happiness, sukha, one pointedness, ekaggata. Right? And you can see the topic wholesome, resultant, functional. Just like the wholesome chittas, we were discussing about that in our third lesson. Just like the wholesome chittas, the same wholesome chittas becomes the functional and resultant. So also these jhanas, the resultants are just the same. Also the functionals are just the same. So we learn one, we learn everything, right? So altogether 15 chittas. Here the Rupavachara, Kusala Chitta or fine material sphere, wholesome Chitta. Now, what happens, the development of the jhana is to eliminate grosser jhana factors. Grosser jhana factors means most obvious jhana factors, or the jhana factors when somebody is developing the jhana, developing the meditation of on the developing on the meditation object, he finds that the particular jhana factor is not that important or not that significant to adhere, not that useful anymore. It is there already within him. You no need to develop it. Also, that meditator finds that this particular jhana factor is disturbing than being helpful. Being attached to that jhana factor is a disturbance. So he get rid of them. So particular jhana factors, once you developed, you no need to develop again. So it is considered out of practice. And there are particular jhana factors out of these, yeah, out of these initial applications, sustained application, says happiness, one pointedness. There are particular jhana factors, you find it, that it is a disturbance to maintain them. It is not helpful. It is something unnecessary. Then you eliminate them. So in that order, this is the order. This is the order that you develop the jhana. So in the first jhana, you have all the factors. What are they? Initial application, vitakka, sustained application, vichara, zest, piti, happiness, one pointed happiness, sukha, one pointedness, ekagata. By the time you go to the second one, initial application is removed. As I said, it is already there now. No need to practice now. You are, once you sit down, you are in the meditation. You are on the object of your meditation. You no need to bring your attention intentionally there. Likewise. Okay. So that's why, as the development going on, you can find the earlier part of the jhana factors becoming being removed. Yeah. By the time of the third jhana, vitakka and vichara, sustained application also gone. By the time fourth jhana, zest also gone. By the time of the fifth jhana, the sukha, happiness gone, replaced by equanimity, upekha. We are going to discuss on every jhana factors. Remember, these are jhana factors. What are they? These are the jhana factors of the fine material realm, Rupavachara Chittas. Initial application, vitakka, sustained application, vichara, zest, piti, happiness, sukha, one pointedness, ekagata. Now the first factor, vitakka, it is made out of these two words. Yeah, vitak, meaning to think. Tak is the root. Yeah, to think. Generally used in the sense of thinking or reflection. Now, in the suttas, you will find this term, yang vitakketi tang sanjanati. Whatever you think, you understand. Yeah. So, vitakka is generally used as uh, something you think. Yeah. In Abhidhamma, also following the jhana factors, now this vitakka means the second point, the mental factor which directs the mind towards the object. Now, for example, if you happen to go to the White House, can you just go in as you know the place very well? No, there must be somebody. An usherer must be there, right? And usherer is there to guide you around the area that you are permitted to visit. Yeah, there are usherers. Vitakka is like an usherer, guiding your mind to the object you have selected to concentrate. Yeah, that's vitakka. So, what does the vitakka do? Vitakka directs your mental mind and mental factors towards the object, like the ashara. Inhibits or suppress the defilement or hindrance called thinamid, the sloth and torpor. If you are sleepy, if you are, you know, not enthusiastic, you cannot meditate, but you have that enthusiasm, you have that feeling of forcing yourself for meditation with the vitakka. So if you have vitakka, sloth and torpor, hina midda is not manifesting or working or active at that moment. Not just for meditation, but for anything else in the world. If the sloth and torpor, that sleepiness, that laziness is invading your mind, what can you do in your life? Not do anything. Not just meditation. Especially in the meditation, you need that vitakka to direct your mind to the object. Yeah. So with that, your sloth and torpor is suppressed. That's what it means. What does the vitakka suppress? Sloth and torpor. Thina midda. What does the vitakka do? Direct the mind to the object. Vichara. Vichara is, you can see the root is char. Char. We know the Pali word charati. Charati means hang around. Yeah, walk around. So char, to move or wander. Another equivalent is, another meaning for vichara, the famous one is investigation. Investigate. Again, similar to wander, hang around. So, but in the Abhidhamma or in the jhanas, in the meditation, vichara is nothing but sustained application of the mind on the object. Sustained application of the mind on the object. Yeah, that means you vitakka brought the mind to the object, and then vichara sustaining there. Actually, this is all about meditation. Meditation is nothing but bringing your mind to the object and keeping the mind there. When the mind runs away, go back somewhere, being distracted, then again you bring your mind to the object and keep it there. Vitakka vichara, vitakka vichara. Again and again you do that vitakka vichara, vitakka vichara. Initial application, you sustain that application. Yeah. Continue to hang around. Vitakka vichara. That's what all about meditation. Vitakka vichara. Initial application and you sustain it. Sustained application. Right? And in that sense you examine the object. So the characteristic examination of the object, you know the object very well. Now if you happen to bring your attention to your breathing and you hang around vichara, you keep your attention there, sustain attention there, then what happened? You understand your breathing. Yeah, though we say it is just breathing, all sorts of different breathings are there. Sometimes the breath is short, sometimes it is long. Not all the time this breath uses two holes of our nose, sometimes just right hole, sometimes the left hole. Yeah. Sometimes both the nostrils. All sorts of things. Yeah. The in breath is cooler, out breath is hotter. Yeah. Experiential level, you understand everything about your breathing. The investigation is there. Investigation. Now, what does this vichara inhibits or suppress? Vichikicha, doubt, because you examine and understand everything about your object of meditation. So, in that object, you understand everything. Doubt is being disappeared. That is the hindrance being suppressed with the vichara. Are you there with me? You know, when we are doing a lesson on Zoom, the worst thing is I cannot see the audience at all. I don't know whether you are awake or asleep. Yeah. Hopefully you are paying attention. Now, these are similes. Just read yourself. Yeah. These are simple similes to understand the difference between vitakka and vichara. You understand this, right? A bird will flap its wings so fast and rapidly at the beginning when it is jumping out of a branch to the sky. Once it gathers the momentum, it just glide in the sky. Time and again, flap a bit, but gliding. Yeah, like an eagle, we can often see here eagles gliding in the sky. So that's vichara. That flapping of the wings, that is vitakka. In the meditation, the same thing happened. But what happened when you continue to practice, when your practice become kind of daily, constant, continuous, then this vitakka and vichara is becoming less and less important for you. Because as soon as you close your eyes, sit down, silent, your mind is on the object and you are there. Without your pull, without your force, mind is suddenly on the object. So your intentional bringing of the mind of the to the object, the vitakka, and sustaining there forcefully by force is not that important anymore. This is something all meditators understand as they continue to practice, as they continue to practice on daily basis. So vitakka vichara is to go out. Once the vitakka vichara is no more needed, then you know you are already out of the first jhana, out of the first level of jhana. Then the third component, piti. Root is pi, that means to refresh. Hinayati. Pinayati. That means pleasurable interest in the object is piti. Now, you may have heard this because monks repeat this when they give talks on the dana. They say, Chittam punati ti punya. That your, they say, making your mind happy is the merit. Actually, it is not making your mind happy. The real meaning is making your mind refresh, because this pinayati and punati is just the same word. I mean, they are just the same meaning. It means you are making your mind refreshed, yeah, with the joyful interest on the object. That's the meaning. Your mind is happiness is, of course, the meaning, okay with that you can apply that meaning to it, but the real or literal meaning is this refreshment of the mind, punatiti or pineti. So piti is that refreshment. That means your object of meditation is pleasurable to you. That's why I say to our practitioners, keep a smile and breathe. Breathe smiling, breathe happily. That's what I tell them. Yeah. At least you force yourself to be happy with your breathing. You are happy with your breathing, then it is not so dull and boring. You can continue. You have some positive aspect in your mind for your practice. So it is clear that piti, the joy here in the fine material sphere consciousness, Rupavacara Chittas, is about the interest, just the interest on the object. Now, this interest is not a feeling. Yeah, it is just a mental factor. And that interest inhibits anger towards the object, towards that particular object is what is meant. Now, in the jhanas, in meditative absorptions, Lord Buddha found that and taught that there are 5 types of piti, 5 types of joy arises as one is continuously in practice. First one is kuddhaka piti, minor zest, the zest that raises one's hairs on the body, raised hairs. Yeah. Then the kanika piti, momentary zest, the zest that keeps happening like flash of lightning. Then the showering zest of kantika piti, the zest, the joy that showers one again and again. The whole body feels refreshed. And the ubhega piti, uplifting zest. The people who are meditating sometimes levitate, physically levitate above. That zest or piti causes the body to uplift. Then the pervading zest, the joy that inundates like a flood, the joy that completely submerge the one who is in meditation. So these are the types of piti that arise for a fine material sphere or the Rupavachara meditating. Then comes the Sukha. Sukha is a bliss or happiness. Now, this is where your body is experiencing that joy, experiencing that pleasure. Yeah. Her is to bear, endure. Yeah. And so is easy, good. Sukha means easy to bear, easy to endure. Of course, the opposite is clear. Dukkha, do is bad, her is to bear. Bad to bear, bad to endure. Yeah, when things are difficult to endure or bad to endure, we call it dukkha. Now, this is opposed to Dutch culture, restlessness and worry. Restlessness, mind is restless, mind is worried, mind is troubling, and the things are not so convenient. Things are dukkha, bad to bear. But when the things are good, restlessness is gone, worries are gone, your mind is settled. Yeah. So that's a fine example to understand the difference between the sukha and dukkha. If someone were to walk on a desert for hours or for days and days without any comfort of water or sleep or bathing, then suddenly he sees an oasis there. When he sees an oasis, that appearance itself brings such a joy to that individual, right? So that joy is piti, that zest is piti. Hmm? Then he reaches this oasis and started bathing, drinking, eating, having rest. That is sukha. Uh, This is the difference we can find easily with this example between piti and sukha. Now, the last component of the jhanas, or the component of the fifth jhana, is upekha, the feeling of upekha, equanimity. Here is not just a neutral feeling, it is the feeling of equanimity or that moderate feeling due to the understanding that the previously arisen sukha and piti, piti and sukha are just temporary or just the impermanent phenomena that arise as one is practicing. An erudite practitioner, a long-term practitioner of meditation, happen to understand not just the things that happened in the world, but also things that happened in meditation, just like piti and sukha, that zest and that happiness. They are just temporary phenomena. As seen and experienced them as they arise and vanished. Arising, vanishing, they just exist for some time, they just vanish. He just developed a certain equanimity within towards those feelings, in the sense not to be attached to them. We are attached because we don't see things impermanent, right? Simple. If we happen to see things as impermanent, something momentary, something changing, we are not attached. So, a meditator in his wisdom, now he has developed the wisdom in the sense that he has seen the impermanence in those arisings of the meditation, by products of meditation, or the components of meditation. He has seen those things as impermanent, something temporary. Then he is developing that lofty attitude called equanimity, upekha. Now, this equanimity is different to the equanimity we saw in the unwholesome factors. Yeah, do you remember? That upekka is just the neutral feeling, there where there is no happiness or sadness. Yeah, just the neutral feeling. But here, that equanimity is a a byproduct of meditative wisdom, seeing the components of the jhanas are as impermanent, momentary, right? So jhana upekha is what the word, you can see this word jhana upekha is developed by strong willpower, realizing that pleasurable feeling is also gross in the sense, impermanent, right? The meditator eliminates it. So with that elimination of the attachment for those uh, pleasurable feelings, piti and sukha, they arise upekha. The feeling is upekha in the fifth jhana. Now, last component is ekaggata, one-pointedness. Eka, one, agga, pointed, ta, state. Now, this is something, a universal mental factor that we all have. Without one-pointedness, we cannot do anything in this world. We will be all madmen. We will be all lunatics in the eyes of anybody else. So all our minds naturally inherit this one-pointedness. But ekaggata, one-pointedness, in the meditative standard is the developed one-pointedness, developed concentration, right? And it is sharpened and flourished with our close contemplation of the object. So every jhana factor and also every vipassana factor has this mental factor, whether it is expressed or not, whether it is presented or not expressly, the factor of ekaggata is present in every type of meditation. That's the idea. Not just every type of meditation, but also in every type of our concentration other than the restlessness. Yeah, other than that mind which is full of restless. That one-pointedness is present in every type of consciousness. Even when you are doing something wrong, your concentration is there. Maybe in a slight or maybe in a strong way. That's the hierarchical difference. But it is present nevertheless. Right? So one-pointedness. So now we know the factors of jhanas. First comes the vitakka, initial application. Then the sustained application, which are piti, zest, sukha, happiness, upekha, equanimity, and then ekaggata, one-pointedness. Of course, the upekha, equanimity, comes in the fifth jhana. Now, these are the five jhanas on the wholesome side. Kusala chitta. As a kusala chitta, what are they? Vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekaggata, sahita, pattamajjhana, kusala chitta. Then vitakka is eliminated when it moves to the second one. Vichara, piti, sukha, ekaggata, sahita, dutiya, jhana, kusala chitta. Vichara is eliminated when it is moved to the third jhana. Piti, sukha, ekaggata, sahita, tatiya, jhana, kusala chitta. Then it is sukha to be removed when it is moved Pith is removed by the fourth jhana, then by the fifth jhana, Sukha also removed, replaced by what? Replaced by Pekha. Now, when somebody takes rebirth somewhere, yeah, as a resultant of his jhana that he maintains when he is dying, in the sense that no need to be in meditative when you are dying, but you have the potential to be entered into that jhanic level. Accordingly, according to that potential, you are taking rebirth somewhere. So, accordingly, exact components of the jhana are the deciding factor of your rebirth in one of the Brahma realms. Now, of course, we are going to discuss this in further in future about according to which jhanic level one is going to take rebirth in which kind of Brahma realms. Now, when you see the resultant chittas, they are just the same as the kusala chittas. So, the resultant chittas corresponds to the kusala chittas in the exact order, right? Then, if an arahant to attain jhana after his enlightenment, after his liberation, of course, we know there is no rebirth for him. So, it is just a function, kiriya chitta, for him. But is there any difference between our jhana and the arhant's jhana? No, they are not. They are just the same. Vitakka vichara piti sukha ekaggata sahita pratama jhana kiriya chitta. It's a functional chitta. That's the only difference. Functional in the sense that he has no rebirth. That's it about the jhanas. Uh, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Bhavatu sabba mangalam Rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te.